Another one has bitten the dust.
Right, stop now.
Get off my chair.
Get off the chair.
I don't see your name on it.
Okay.
Oh, it's live.
You live?
Oh, hello. No one told me I was live. Hi everybody, welcome to the Friday Night Curry Club. Welcome to my kitchen. I hope everybody's well. I hope you've had a good week. I hope it's been warmish for most of us. It was nice at the beginning and then it got a little bit cold today. Welcome everybody. Come on in. I hope things are going well. As always, I'm just going to give you a quick sort of introduction to what we're doing, but I want to spend a little bit of time for you guys to make sure that everyone who wants to join us is logged on, and please let me know that you're there. Let me tell me or give me a big hello. First of all, let me know where you are tuning in from, because it's just nice to know where in the world you might be. So say your hellos, get them out. Let me know if you are cooking with me tonight. Let me know if you're just watching. Let me know if you've got any questions. So use this half an hour to your benefit. So if you've got stuff that you might want to ask me, please do. I will answer all your questions as they come through. If I can't do them right now, I will come back to them and I'll answer them later on. But we tend to get through a lot of questions. So who do we have? Do we have lots of people joining us today? Yes?
Daniel from Portugal.
Hi Daniel from Portugal, lovely to have you join us. Welcome.
Stuart's in a queue for McDonald's at the moment.
Oh my goodness, Stuart, you're in a queue for McDonald's as it just opened up. Well, I'm very pleased for you. Enjoy your McDonald's, won't you?
We have someone from Athens. Lois is here again from...
Hello Lois, lovely to have you join again. I hope you're well. I hope things are good for you. Who else have we got?
From Australia. A couple of people from Australia.
A few more people from Australia. Hi guys.
We've got Christina from Portsmouth, Maria from Russia.
Hi Maria from Russia, and hello Christina from Portsmouth. Was that?
From Uganda.
We've got people from Uganda. Amazing.
Nigeria.
Gosh. Nigeria, amazing, lovely to have you. Welcome. I hope you've all got a little glass of something, because it is Friday. It is sort of wind down day, if it is the evening for you. If not, then it'll be fast approaching. So today we are making something called Keema, which is a minced lamb curry, and for me it's a real comfort dish. I just find it so homely, and it's quick to make, and it's just really lovely. And there's lots of different things that I've done, and you'll see them on the website and on the app, that I've done lots of different things with this dish. So I've made it into a shepherd's pie, I've made it into almost like burger bao patty toppings. What else have I done with it? I've used it in moussaka, I've used it in lots and lots of different things. So it's a really lovely minced meat, minced lamb curry. You can use beef if you've got beef. If you prefer to use beef, that's absolutely fine. I know a few of you are using turkey mince, absolutely fine. No problem at all, whatever mince you have. The other reason that it's so good and so versatile is that you can make it into a vegetarian or a vegan dish quite easily, either by using corn or using a vegan substitute. You can use lentils, you could use brown lentils, which you just need to cook a little bit beforehand. You can use red lentils, which are really quick to cook, so you don't really need to do much to them. I've got some leftover chickpea lentils, or split chickpeas here, just from yesterday, and I didn't really know what to do with them, so I'm just going to add them into my dish just to give it another little sort of extra bite. So it's not that it's steadfast, you don't have to follow that recipe all the way through. You can use whatever you've got. I love to cook it with mushrooms because they're really nice and chunky. If you don't like mushrooms, you can just miss them out. Also, or alternatively, you can add other vegetables if you want to. If you want to add, for example, some frozen sweet corn, you can do that. I'm going to use some peas. If you've got frozen mixed veg, you can add that as well. So whatever suits you and whatever suits your family. So before we start, have we got any questions that I need to go through before we get cooking?
Someone from Argentina has asked, why do you prefer ghee to just butter? Is there a reason?
Why do we prefer ghee to butter? So ghee is very much an Indian oil to cook with, and it's used in very specific regional cooking, and it's used in very specific dishes. I know in the reason that it's used in India is because the process by which you make ghee, what happens is you heat up the butter, and what happens is all of the milk proteins sediment to the bottom, so that pure golden fat or saturated fat that you get is really stable, so it doesn't go off in hot temperatures, which is where it came from. That's why it was used. So it's not that you only use ghee in Indian cooking. You don't. You use lots of different types of oil. It's just that it's got a really lovely flavour, and that was the purpose for it. It was used so that in a hot country you could use something that was like butter that didn't go off. Ghee also has lots and lots of health benefits, and if you go to my website, there's a whole blog all about ghee, and it tells you all about the benefits of it. Just remember, it is a saturated fat, so you shouldn't use lots and lots of it. But there are certain dishes, and those of you who've cooked with me before will know that there are certain dishes that I love to use ghee in. I hope that answers your question. Any more questions before we get cooking?
Lots of people loving that you're in red again.
Ah, my favourite colour. I've got it back on. Okay, I'm going to...
Saturated fats bad?
So saturated fats are bad. They are, they're not the best, but there's lots of different types of... The worst fats for you are the really long triglyceride fats. That's not what you want. So those are your margarines and all of the fats that you get in processed food and that kind of thing. Saturated fat, depending on what it is. So coconut oil is saturated fat, but it's a plant-based thing. And there are certain saturated fats that your body can utilize very, very quickly. So for example, ghee is not a fat that turns into fat that is then deposited in your body. It's a fat that's utilized and burned into energy very, very quickly. So from that perspective, it's a good fat, but everything in moderation. I wouldn't use it all the time. I wouldn't slap it on my toast in the morning every day. Everything in moderation. Okay, so I'm going to talk you through what I've got going on here. I've got my masala dabba as always. So my cumin, my garam masala, my fenugreek, my Kashmiri chili powder, mustard seeds, coriander seeds, and haldi or turmeric. So those are my 7 key spices. We're not using all of them today. The only ones we are using are cumin seeds, turmeric, chili powder, some garam masala, and I probably will put a little bit of the fenugreek in as well, just because I love it. So that's my masala dabba, my spice tin. I've also got some salt here and a little bit of oil that I'm going to be cooking with. I've got some tin tomatoes, so just some normal tomatoes from a tin. That's 400 gram tin. I probably won't use all of them, but I'll use most of them. I've got some frozen peas, just normal frozen peas from my freezer. And I've just got some normal little mushrooms, a couple of onions, so they're quite small, so I've put 2 there. Some fresh ginger, some garlic, some green chili, so these are the chilies that we tend to cook Indian food with. I've got my minced lamb, I've got some coriander, some fresh coriander, and I've just got those lentils I talked about, only because I've got them. I wouldn't normally have them in this dish, but I'm going to use them up. So, shall we get cooking? Is everyone ready? Can you give me a little thumbs up? Let me know if you're with me and if you're cooking with me today. Before I start, I will say that the other bit that I've been doing for this dish is that I'm going to show you a very quick, I don't know if you've ever heard of it, Mumbai sort of street food. They tend to have these lovely soft rolls called Bao Buns that you then smear on with all kinds of delicious stuff. I've also been making those, and I'm just going to talk you through some of those ingredients and how I've put that together. And then some of this dish that we cook, I'm going to stuff it into the dough for those bao buns, and we're going to let that cook. Obviously I can't do that live because once I stuff them I need that to then prove, and then I'll put it in the oven, but I will share pictures with you afterwards, all on Instagram and so on. So I've got my pan on. I'm going to put a little bit of oil in, just about a tablespoon or so. Let that heat up. I've just got it on a low heat because
You leave mushrooms out.
yes, as I said, if you don't like mushrooms you can leave them out. You don't have to have mushrooms in this dish at all. I just put them in because I like them. So yep, don't worry about
how many grams of lentils should they use.
So if it depends what you're doing. If you're using completely all lentils, or if you are using just a few lentils, it really depends what you're doing. So if you go by roughly, I suppose the easiest way to tell you is 1 ramekin. So if you say 100 grams is going to be enough for 2 people. 100 grams of lentils will probably be enough for 2 people because they do grow. That's a rough measurement, but then if you're putting other stuff in there as well, you might want to reduce it a little bit. So first thing first, let's dice up our onion nice and fine. And again, we had some more, so I don't know if you were watching last week, we had a few suggestions about how to stop yourself from crying when you're chopping onions, which was very amusing. And I had a few more over the week as more people watch the video. So keep those suggestions and keep your hints and tips coming in, because they're really, some of them are really helpful, some of them are really funny. So please do share the love. So who have we got on here that is a newbie? Let me know if you're new and you've not joined me before, because it would be lovely to say hello to you. And also if you are somebody who joins me every week, like Lois from Australia. It's always lovely to have people coming back again and again.
Lois, Dominique, Sue.
Hi
Tracy.
Sue. Hi Tracy. You were asking about lentils. I think you're doing this with lentils, aren't you? Are you cooking at the moment, or are you doing it later on? Because I know there's a time lag. Oh, that's got me crying again. So all I've done is just nice and lightly chopped up a couple of small onions.
We've got Alessia from Italy's new, Donna from Tennessee.
Let me say hello. So Alicia from
Italy.
Italy. Hi, welcome. Lovely to have you join us. I'm a little bit teary because of the onions.
We've got Karen, Donna from Tennessee.
Hello, Donna from Tennessee. I think you left a message recently, did you? I can't, maybe, I'm not sure. Or you emailed me or something. Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
George from Croydon, Adrian.
Hi, George from Croydon. You're literally up the road from me. Welcome. Lovely to have you join me.
We have Adrian from Berlin, Ahmad from New York, Linda
Ahmad from New
Vancouver,
York, Linda from Vancouver. Amazing. Lovely to have you join me. Who was the other person before Ahmad?
Adrian from Berlin.
Adrian from Berlin, welcome. Lovely to have you join us. For those of you who are new, we do these every Friday at 6:15 my time. Just so that, I mean, it all sort of started a few years ago, but I've been doing these on and off for many, many years. But it's all about just getting people back in the kitchen, giving you something to do on a Friday night that's not going to take very long, that's going to be really tasty, really flavoursome. So what I do is I share the recipe with you on the Wednesday before, so you know what we're cooking. And if you want to, you can just join me and cook along. And then it just means you've had an hour of chit chat with me and people from across the world. And you can sit and you can cook. And then when we say goodbye, you've got a lovely meal to enjoy with all your family.
A couple of questions and lots of new people were saying hello.
Okay, so questions coming through. Hello.
Someone has said they find dried shiitake mushrooms are great for putting a chewy texture into veggie dishes.
I love shiitake mushrooms as well. You're absolutely right. It's that lovely chewy texture that they add. They're quite specific though. Not everybody like them, so just be careful if you're cooking for friends or anybody.
I've just seen them. I thought it was a question, but it's not. Someone's just said, any objections to adding a whole Scotch bonnet for fun?
Do you know what? I have no problem with you ramping up that chilli. No problem at all. So if you're going to do a Scotch bonnet, put it in now. Put it in whole and let it start to just ooze its flavour into that dish.
Lots of people ask, oh, sorry.
But, oh, hang on. But make sure that you're sensible with hot chilies. Because, you know, it's all about enjoying the dish. It's not about ruining it because you can't eat it because it's too hot. So make sure it's to your palate.
Have you got vegan recipes? Are they in a book or a video? And then Sue is asking, if you're using turkey, do onions need to be as dark as they would be for lamb?
So 2 questions. One about vegan food. So if you do have a vegan diet, Indian food I would suggest is probably amazing for you, because it's just naturally, there are lots of, obviously there are ingredients that you might need to change or substitute and so on, but it is a great diet in terms of the amount of sort of different proteins that we use, from lentils to jackfruits to all that kind of stuff. If you're asking about recipes, if you go to my website, which is harrygotra.co.uk, there are hundreds and hundreds of recipes on there. It's not all vegan. There's lots of meat dishes. I'm not vegan, but I absolutely can tweak things and make them suitable for the vegan diet. So there's loads of recipes, and you can search through for vegan food on there. The other thing you can do is download the app, which means that it's a free app. Just look for Harry Ghotra in your app store. Download it, it's free, and it means that you've got me in your pocket, and I can help you cook stuff, and you can ask questions, and they come directly to me so I can answer them. We've also got a massive community on there, and they are so amazing at helping each other out and answering questions and so on. So yes, do have a look at all of those different sources of information. There's loads out there. And what was the other question? Sue was asking, about turkey mince and whether I need to take the onions as dark. So good question, Sue. I think for this, I know you're cooking a different kind of meat, but because you want that depth of flavour and that lovely meatiness from this, I would carry on and make your onions really nice and golden for this dish. But very good question. Thank you for that.
The metal box with the 7 spices, where can Patrick buy his?
Hello Patrick, you're after a masala damba. So we sell all of this on the website. I can't remember 100% if we've got them back. I think we have got them back in stock because we sent some out this week. So if you go to my website and you go to the shop area on the website, and you can get to it through the app or the website, all the information is there. So they come with the 7 key spices and a little guide as to how you use them. So just check that out. Okay. So my onions are in the pan, and they're just sort of cooking down. What I didn't do was get any water. Have I got some? No, I haven't. I'm just going to have to use this. So as I always say, if you are a little bit worried about your onions catching on the bottom of the pan, all you need to do is just put a little splash of water in, and that will just lift everything off the bottom of the pan. Oh God, this is why I should have prepped my water beforehand, but I forgot. So you just sort of let that do what it needs to do. Now, as you start to get a little bit of colour on your onions, that's when we're going to go in with our garlic. So I've just been chopping that and getting that ready. So that's there. I know that some of you already have done all your prep. You're very, very good and get your stuff ready and prepped beforehand. But I sort of like to do it whilst you're watching, so that we can chat about the actual process, and if there's any questions that come up, it's always really helpful for you to see me doing it. So once you start to get a little bit of colour, Then I'm going to add my garlic in as well. Now with this dish, because it's a meat dish, so just going back to Sue's question earlier, it's a nice meat dish. Well, I'm using lamb. Some people are using different kinds of mincemeat or corn or whatever you're using. But we want to get a really nice, unctuous depth of flavour in here, and we're going to only get that when we cook our onions. So if you put the time and effort in at the beginning and get your onions absolutely beautifully caramelised and deep and rich and flavoursome, then the rest of the dish will just follow through and it'll just be amazing. So let those onions cook down. Most recipes will say cook your onions for like 3 to 4 minutes or 5 to 10 minutes. It's rubbish. Never ever do that. When you're cooking a curry, if you're cooking a deep, rich, meaty curry, your onions need to cook for a good half an hour. We're not going to do that this time because this is a minced lamb dish, but if I was doing a meat curry, it's all about the onions. If there's one thing you need to take away when you're cooking a good curry, it's all about the onions and how you treat your onions. So, got a little bit of colour on that. I'm now going to go in with my garlic. I chopped up 4 cloves of garlic here, and that might sound like quite a lot, but it's a lamb dish. It can hold it, it can carry that. If you're cooking with minced turkey, you probably don't need as many. It won't harm you if you know, it won't harm the dish if you like garlic anyway. So don't worry too much, but you don't have to probably put that much garlic in. But I love it, so I'm gonna load it up. There we go. As soon as that garlic hits there, you start to get the aromatics coming through, and it's just wonderful. Okay.
Anne is asking, she's curious as to why there's so much stirring of what's in the pan. Can you talk about?
Yep. So, when you're cooking your onions at the beginning of a curry dish, what you're doing is you heat up your oil, you put your onions in, and you put it on quite a high heat. And the reason for that is you're just getting rid of all of the moisture and all of the acrid gases and all of that are in the onions. And because it's on a high heat, you need to keep it stirring. Once that's done, and you'll see that you start to sort of soften and you start to get a little bit of colour going on, you can then reduce the temperature of your pan, and you're then starting to control it by adding little splashes of water. So then you don't need to stir it anymore. It's just that initial bit. But you might think it's a little bit weird to add the water, but I assure you, if you're not cooking now and you try this method, it's just going to open up your world of how you cook down onions and so on.
And then, is there any advantage to using homemade ginger garlic paste?
Is there any advantage to what? Sorry, homemade ginger and garlic. So ginger and garlic paste, yeah. If you want to make it and you have it in your fridge or whatever, it's brilliant to do that. And it's a good way of using stuff that you might have left over, and you can just whiz it up and store it. Absolutely brilliant, and it does save a little bit of time. I will do it if I've got stuff that's left over or I've got a lot to do and I just want to keep some in the fridge. But if I'm not going to be cooking Indian food every single day, then I'll just do it as and when I'll just use whatever I've got. But it's a brilliant time saver. It's a great idea. So yeah, and I would recommend that you make your own rather than buying the shop bought stuff, because some of the shop bought stuff can be quite acrid, especially the garlic. I'm not a fan, I have to say. Okay, so I'm chopping up 3 chilies, 3 green chilies, 3 finger long chilies, just because I want this to have a little bit of a kick to it. Now, as I'm chopping my chili, what I want you to see is that, I don't know if you can see from there, but what I want you to see is that I'm chopping it up so that it's really, really finely chopped. When I teach and when I do these classes, a lot of people will chop their chilies and they will do this, and they will have their chilies chopped like that. Now, can you see? I'm going to just bring it closer so you can have a little look. So if you are chopping your chilies and you're adding them in, hang on, let me just get you the first one there. Yeah? The big bits. Right, hang on, there we go. So if you've got them chopped up like that, you're going to bite down on those as you're cooking, and it's not going to be very pleasant. So that's not how you chop your chili. This is how you chop your chili. Hang on. So that's what you want to do. You cut it like that, and then you chop it up nice and finely. This will dissipate the flavour all the way through the dish, whereas those big chunky bits will just be there, and you'll bite down on them, and they're just not very pleasant. Okay. So Patrick, this is especially for you. These are the tins that we've got. And Trevor, who was asking. So these are the spice tin that we have in stock. So they come like that, and they come with the 7 key spices and a little spice guide just for you to show you how to do it. So
Show the size compared to that one.
just so you know, someone's just asked about the size, but it's slightly smaller. This is my one is quite a big one because I use it all the time. This one's slightly smaller, but as I say, we do put the spices in there for you. Okay. So just coming back to my pan. They're starting to get a little bit of colour on there. I'm going to put a little bit of water in.
Sue's asking about what length knife you were using now.
This one, this is I think it's, yeah, no, you're asking me some tricky questions now. I think it's a 21. Is that 21? $18. We think it's an 18. So it's not huge because I'm not a fan of great big knives. Where's the? If I show you yeah, so you can get those, which I'm not that keen on. So this one's an 18. That is a 21, isn't it? It might even be 30.
Can you put in a whole chili for less strength?
Yep, so if you don't want a lot of heat, you just put the chili in whole, and it will just very, very slowly, just use one, and it will just very slowly cook through. So it really depends, and I will come back and say this again, always cook your meal to suit you and your family. If you don't like heat, don't make it, don't add those chilies in. If you do like something more spicy than the chilies that I've recommended on my recipe, then just add more. It's absolutely fine. There's no right or wrongs, and don't be worried about mixing things up. So I'm going to show you the inside of my pan just so you can see what my onions are looking like. So they are starting to get quite a bit of colour on them. And what I'm wanting them to do is start to break down, because that's quite important at this stage. So is everybody still with me? If you're cooking, are you still with me? Are we at the same place?
Michael's asked, do you eat Indian food every day?
So hi Michael. No, I don't eat Indian food every day. I eat, well, I usually tend to have Indian food at least twice, maybe 3 times a week. But we do also I cook all kinds of stuff. Having 2 kids who want pizza every now and again and all of that kind of stuff. So no, we don't, not every day. But I do get withdrawal symptoms if I don't have Indian food at least once or twice a week. So when I was growing up though, it's funny you should say that. When I was growing up, so my parents came to the UK in the 60s from India. When I was growing up, absolutely, we had Indian food every single day. And I used to love going to school and having school dinners. And everyone always says to me, you weirdo, why did you like school dinners? That's just really strange. And I said it was the only time I got to eat English food. And I loved it. It didn't matter what it was. I loved school dinners. But I've learnt a lot since then. Okay, so I'm keeping this going. I'm keeping that water going in. And I'm starting to get the colour that I want to get to. And I'm hoping, those of you who are cooking with me, are you starting to get that lovely dark brown colour that we want? let me know where you are, just so that I can gauge how fast to go.
Is there any reason that you're using a plastic spoon over a wooden one, for example?
So my spoon isn't plastic. I get this a lot. I get lots of grief on YouTube. My spoon is not plastic. I don't use plastic in the kitchen, not to cook with. This is a food grade silicone, and these are amazing. They're so much better than a lot of wood. Wood, if you're talking about bacteria and hygiene purposes, wood is not great. These are fantastic. Okay, so I'm just going to grate my ginger. So in the pan, all we've got is a little bit of oil, onions and garlic. Over here, I've chopped up my chilli nice and finely, and then I'm going to grate some ginger. So fresh ginger. You don't need to peel it. You can if you want to. It's completely up to you. All I tend to do is just wash it, and then I will just grate it as I am doing now. What you'll find is if you've got a really old piece of ginger, the skin will just come away and you can throw it away. Or if it's nice and fresh, then it will just grate with it. And for a dish like this, which is really rustic, homely, a little bit of texture is all good. And this is all going to cook down into that masala. So you won't get little bits of the skin in your final dish. Okay. So is everyone still with me?
Yep.
Yeah.
We're getting there. Sue said she's already there. She's waiting for you to catch up.
Ah, well done, Sue. You are on a roll. Okay. Oh. Last bit. Right. So my onions, I want to just show you very quickly how beautiful, dark and lovely and caramelized they are. They're not burnt. They're not catching on the bottom of the pan. They are cooked. And this is where your flavour is. Okay? You can't really see it because it's there.
Lift it up. Lift the pan up. Yeah. Down. Yeah.
Okay? So that's where we are. Now that we've got lovely, lovely dark onions, now we can start to add our lovely aromatics to it. So into that, first of all, I'm going to put my tomatoes. So as I said, this was 400 grams of tomatoes from a tin. I always, just to let you know, I always use whole tomatoes rather than chopped tomatoes from a tin.
Couple of questions. Adrian's asking, can you buy silicone spoons in any shop or just specialised ones?
You can get these silicone spoons. There are a couple of places that I use. A lot of really good kitchenware shops do have them, and you have to ask for. So this is called a spoonula. Not only is it really good in that it's food grade and all of that kind of stuff, but the way that it cleans out the pan, and it's just, they are amazing. Where is it? On Amazon. You can't actually find them on Amazon.
Dominique says she's bought similar ones from the brand Zeal on Amazon.
Zeal, that's it. Zeal do have them, but when you buy them, make sure, because you can get really hard ones that don't sort of clean the pan as you're cooking with them. These are, so I aim for a spoonula, something is that shape, but they're also soft, so they scoop around the pan really nicely.
And then Tony is asking, what's the difference in using chopped garlic and ginger or a paste? Do they cook differently?
The difference with using fresh chopped like this and a paste is that you've got to be really careful with a paste, because it's a paste. If you put that in at the beginning, it will catch on the bottom of the pan and it will burn. So you need to make sure that your onions are nice and brown, and then you add your ginger and garlic paste, because you don't want it to burn and catch on that bottom of that pan. So it's more about the timing as to when you add things. With fresh stuff, ginger, so you'll notice that, so a lot of chefs, what they do, or cooks, what they do is they will put their ginger and garlic in at the same time. I never do that. The only reason that I don't do that is ginger, if you look at it, is very, 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 very fibrous. Okay, and those fibres catch on the bottom of the pan and they just stick to the bottom of the pan and they will burn. So I always add my garlic in first, because you need the garlic to cook down. You need that rawness from the garlic to come through. Once that's done and my liquid has gone in the pan, which is usually tomatoes, well, it is in this case, that's when I will put my ginger and my chilies in. So that's the next bit. So if you're waiting for me, get your ginger and your chilies, chopped chilies in. Give that a little stir. Now is the time that we're going to start to add our aromatics and the fun stuff. Okay, so I'm going to put a teaspoon of cumin seeds in, and I'm just going to give them a little bash in my pestle and mortar. Now what cumin does as a spice, it brings out the natural sweetness in your dish, and you can use it in a number of different ways. So in some of the dishes that we've cooked over the last few weeks, we've used cumin seeds whole. We use that in some of the rice dishes, and when you use cumin seeds whole, what they do is they add a nuttiness. So it's texture as well as that lovely aroma. But when you grind your spices, when you grind cumin, it adds more of a warmth, and it brings out that sweetness that will be in the onions and so on. So
Alessia's asked, what did you avoid putting in from the canned tomatoes?
oh, I didn't avoid anything. I was just so I didn't put the whole lot in, and the only reason for that is I don't want this to be a really saucy dish. So it might have looked like I was picking certain bits out, but I put in the main bulk of the big tomatoes, and I've left the juice and stuff, and I'll use that tomorrow. So I just don't want this to be a really saucy dish. I just want it to be much thicker. So my ginger and my chilies have gone in. The ground cumin, that goes in. Pop that to one side. And then my other spices, I'm going to put some turmeric in. I'm going to put a little bit of the chili powder in. I'm also going to add some fenugreek. I don't think that's on the recipe, but I am a fenugreek fan. I love fenugreek. If you don't have it, don't worry about it. Don't stress, don't worry, just miss it out. So a little bit of chili powder.
Can you dry the cumin before grinding it?
So you can roast your spices before grinding them. It makes it,
yeah, dry fry.
it makes it a little bit easier for you to grind your spices, because if you dry them out, the oils come through, makes it a little bit more brittle. It does enhance the flavour a little bit, but it depends what kind of a dish you're doing. So if I was doing a dish with lots of spices, like a madras or something, then I would toast my spices, grind them and put them in. But for this, there's no real need. But absolutely, if you want to, there's no reason why you can't do that. You absolutely can. Okay, so that all goes in, and we're going to give this a mix. The other bit is some salt. So I'm going to season with some salt, just about a teaspoon of salt. Now, a lot of people worry about salt, and obviously with the health, if you've got health concerns, that means you can't have salt. Obviously you heed your doctor's advice, but when I cook with people, when I do my classes, I quite often I get people to taste each other's food. I get them to taste mine, and a lot of people say it just doesn't taste right. I don't know what it is, and it's because they've slightly under seasoned. So I'd say less than a teaspoon of salt in there, and that's going to feed more. Probably there's going to be enough, probably about 5 portions in there. So it goes quite a long way. And if you season now, it stops you or prevents you from adding salt later. So seasoning is really important. It's not that you want your food to taste salty. What salt does is it enhances the flavour of other ingredients that you've added. So, for example, it will bring out the heat from chili. So if you use chili, it will bring that warmth through. So it's quite important.
Fenugreek seeds or fenugreek leaves?
So fenugreek leaves, don't use the seeds. If you've got the seeds, don't worry about it. It's fine. It was just a little preference. So now, this is what we call the masala. So the masala is starting to cook through. It's starting to come together. It's starting to thicken up and reduce. and you'll see the colour of this change, and it should start to become quite vibrant and quite red. I'll just show you. Let me just show you. There we go. Does that? Can you see? So it's nice and vibrant. I'm just going to show you. Yeah. So at this stage, my masala is still quite wet, and if you added your protein in now, you'd end up with an okay-ish curry. It'd be all right. But until you cook your masala down, until you intensify the flavours, and then you add your protein, that's gonna be the difference between an okay curry and a banging curry. So we're going to let that reduce while we do our other little bits. So I'm just going to prep my mushrooms. I like my mushrooms nice and chunky in this. It also means the kids can pick them out because they hate them. But you chop them up to however it suits you. So I'm just going to just quarter them and have them ready to go in. Now, because mushrooms are, they hold a lot of water, I'm going to add those in before I add my meat in, because I want them almost to saute and the liquid that's in them come through and sit in that masala, and it starts to cook into that masala. What I don't want to do is reduce it all down, add my meat, which is nice and thick, and then the liquid comes out of my vegetables, and then the meat is just then simmering away in that water. I want the fat and the flavour to come from the meat, not the other way around. Does that make sense? I hope it does.
Do you ever use MSG in Indian food?
MSG, no. No, everything with Indian food, it is all about whatever is growing, whatever is available, you use that. There's very little in the way of processed stuff that goes into Indian food. Okay, so that is cooking away and it's getting lovely and thick. How is yours looking, guys? Take photos so you can share them with me. Let me know how you're getting on. How is your masala looking? I'll tell you a little story. So this, I don't know, I've probably told you already, but when we were little, this would be the point when we would be coming home from school, and we'd walk through the front door and go, "Oh, Mum, we're starving, really hungry." So what she'd do is she'd just get a little bit of this masala, get some bread, and just slap a little bit on some bread and give it to us. And it's probably the best thing you will ever have in your life. It's amazing. So
How,
a good masala is...
Do you use any special salt Malden or just basic table salt?
I tend not to use table salt. Always go for a natural product if you can. I do use Malden salt. I do like Malden salt. What's the other one? So just to go for a rock salt. This is a, was it Greek? I can't remember where it's from, this one. But ideally, you don't want to use just processed table salt. Just go for a more natural product if you can.
How do you know if the spices you've stored are still good?
The only way that you, so I do a big spice masterclass when I do my teaching and so on. The only way you will know that if your spices are adding what you want them to add to your food is by tasting them. Okay, if your spices smell right, they look the right colour, even if they're past their best before date, but they smell, they look the right colour, and you can have a little chew of them and they taste right, then they are still doing what they should be doing. For example, if you've got green cardamom that isn't green, it's grey and all the pods have opened and there's no aroma to it, you're better off throwing them away, because what will happen is if you add really out of date spices that don't have the natural oils within them, because what you're doing by using spices is trying to get the oils that are in the spices into your food. If they don't have those oils in them, they're not going to add it to your food, and sometimes what they can do is make your dish bitter. So it is worth keeping an eye on your spices. Right, I just want to show you this. So before, my masala was a little bit wet and not quite right. Now look at it. So it's thickened up and it's much more together and hold it. It's almost like a paste now. That is what you want. So now, if you guys are at this stage, have a taste. Taste your masala. Make sure the seasoning is correct. Make sure the salt is right. Taste it. But that should have a real big punch to it. And if you haven't got a nice pungent masala here, say it in a different way. If your masala isn't really punchy and full of flavour, it's not going to be able to transport those flavours into the rest of your ingredients. So if you've got a namby-pamby masala, your curry's going to be a bit namby-pamby. This needs to be really pushy and potent and delicious. So into this, my mushrooms go in first. Like I said, I want to draw the liquid out of my mushrooms before I do anything else. So I'm going to put this on a high heat.
Say hello to Kushik.
Kushi.
Kushik.
Hi Kushik, how are you? Lovely to have you join us. Where are you joining us from? Have you said? Tell us where you're joining us from.
Would you taste a fresh chilli for strength before using to determine how much?
I do tend to do that. The only thing with doing that is you tend to bite that end, and that end has got the least amount of heat to it. Chilies do vary massively, I find, with the level of heat, even when you've got, you know, you go for the same variety and so on. But yeah, I do. I quite often will have a couple of chilies on the side with as a little salad, just because I just like it's not the heat that I like the flavour and the freshness. So yes, I do eat chilies. Okay, so my mushrooms are in there. I just want those to saute a little bit more, just draw some moisture out of them. Whilst we're doing that, I can have a little clear down. Actually, let's put these bits to here. Right, so in a minute, once those mushrooms have got rid of some of their moisture, I am going to add my lentils just because I've got them, and then I'm going to put the lamb in.
Someone's asked, they're thinking this would be nice with like a mint yogurt. Can you do a recipe for mint yogurt?
Yeah, I can do a recipe. I mean, there are recipes on the website already for mint yogurt, but I'll talk you through a few things that you can have with it. So I'm just going to put those lentils in, only because as I said, I've just got them and I need to use them. So just mix those in.
Can we freeze all fresh ingredients like chilies, ginger, lemongrass, etc.?
Yes, you can freeze all your fresh ingredients. There's no reason why you can't. If you've got stuff that's left over, it's always a better idea to freeze it than throw it in the bin. So what you can do is you can ginger, garlic, chilies, you can blitz them up together and then just put them into ice cube trays, and then just pop one out every time you make a curry. You might need 1 or 2 ice cubes, and then you just put those in. Okay, so my meat is now going in as well, and I'm just going to stir all of that and coat it in the masala. Really important.
What variety are the lentils, and did you marinate the lamb before cooking it? If so, what did you do to it?
Nope, so the lamb hasn't been marinated. You don't need to, it's just mince. These lentils are just chana or split pea, and as I said, I'm only using them because I've got them. In the recipe it doesn't have any mention of lentils, but a few of you were asking me if you wanted to make this into a vegan option, and I said yep, you can use various different types of lentils, and I just had these hanging around, so that's why I've put them in. But you can, a really nice lentil to use in this dish is the brown lentil. So brown lentils, just cook them in a little bit of salted water until they're soft, and then use those, and it just gives that lovely meaty texture if you want it. But
Mike has just said, I live in West Wales, but I grew up in Wolverhampton near Merrydale, not far from Bangkok.
Oh, hello, who's that?
Mike.
Hello, Mike. I grew up in Wolverhampton too. I was not far from Blakenhall, but as I get a lot of grief because I seem to have lost the accent. I didn't do it on purpose, it just did go. But you're in Wales now. Oh, lovely to have you join us. Thank you, Mike. Okay. Okay, right. So what I've done, I just want to show you in my pan. So that's how it's looking at the moment. It's looking pretty delicious. So I'm just going to let that simmer away. I'm going to put the lid on and let that simmer away.
Okay, we've got a few people talking about the meat.
A few questions.
When I cook beef or lamb, I worry about the toughness of the meat. That's why they were asking about the marinade one.
Okay, so what, in terms of minced, I need a little bit more details.
They were the person that asked about
So
whether they marinated.
you worry that the meat's going to get tough if you cook it too long, or it's not going to soften enough. With this dish, obviously we're using mince, so it's slightly different. What I find is that you've got to use the right cut. That has a lot to do with how long you cook it for and what sort of temperatures. So when we've cooked lamb dishes in the past, I've said a good neck fillet. Leg is a little bit drier, but it still gets really tender. So you just need to think a little bit about the cuts of meat that you're using. And for that reason, I've actually put an ebook together, which is all about lamb. And if you go to the website, it literally goes through all the different types of cuts there are, how you cook them, how long for, and all of that information is in that ebook. And I think it's on the website. It's like $4.99 or something. But it's got that information in there, and it is really important that you choose the right cut for the dish that you're cooking. With a lot of Indian dishes, it's that low, slow cook. And that's where you get that tenderization. That's where you get, the meat cooking through properly, so it just breaks down and it falls apart. A lot of people will cook it too quickly. So if you're using sort of young lamb, it will be about 40 minutes to 50 minutes, maybe even up to an hour. But if you're using an older animal, then it's going to take a lot longer. That low, slow cook is so, so important. With beef, again, cuts are very, very important, and how you cook them. That's what will define the flavour of the dish. So just do a little bit of research around that. And as I said, that ebook around lamb that I've got on the website is a really good source of information. So we've just had a few orders for the spice tins come through. Thank you for your orders. We've had four or five orders come through. Thank you for those. It's amazing to see that you're loving that the product and so on. Just to let you know, if you've ordered them from the US, they'll be going out ASAP, but it's taking a couple of weeks. There's a little bit of a slow postal thing going on at the moment, so it's taking a couple of weeks to get our products out to the US, but they are on their way, so thank you for that. Those of you who've ordered in the UK, I'm being told stuff. If you've ordered in the UK, then it's literally 2 or 3 days. Obviously it's Friday today, so next week they will be with you and you can enjoy them.
We've got quite a few questions.
Okay, so we've got more questions coming in. I'm just going to let that simmer away and we're going to go through these questions. I'm going to have a little drink.
So, is lamb better than mutton mince?
So, is lamb, there's no such thing as one better than the other. It's more about the flavour. So lamb obviously is a young animal, cooks more quickly, it's slightly fresher. Mutton is an older animal, It takes more cooking. It's got, for me, I love mutton. It's got a really deep, earthy, rich flavour. Also, getting hold of mutton is a little bit more complicated. You have to order it in. You can't get it all the time. So you just need to experiment a little bit. I think with mince, mutton mince or mutton or lamb mince, there's not a huge amount of difference, but it does taste earthier. It is a bit more wholesome, if that's the right word to use. So I don't think that it's not about is one better than the other. It's just whatever you might have. I love mutton, so does that help? I hope that helps.
And then, is it true that when oil releases, then it's about ready?
Yeah, so you'll see when you're cooking a masala and you're cooking it down, I think the problem is that I don't use a lot of oil when I cook, so just about a tablespoon there, but a lot of more, I don't know what the right word is, but a lot of Indian cooks will use a lot more oil. And then when they are making their masala, you will see the oil come through, and that's when you know your masala is ready. With the amount of oil I use, you tend not to really see that, but there is, you do get it coming through. You'll start to see it, and that's when you know your masala is ready. Absolutely.
And then, what pan brand are you using to cook? Monique wants to invest in good cookware.
Good cookware. I've got a few, there's a few sort of pans that I think you should have. So really good cast iron casserole dish that you can have on the hob that can go in the oven. Ideally aim for an uncoated one, because it's just got a really, it gives your curries and these slow cooked dishes a really, really good flavour. So that's always one to go for. And then a really good chef's pan. Demea, if you have a look at Demea, they are expensive, but they've got some amazing product. But a really good chef's pan. So this is a chef's pan. It's that sort of shape, and I use this for a lot of different dishes. So those are two pans that I would recommend. And then there's my kadai, which is my Indian wok and things like that. And then also a really good frying pan is worth its weight in gold. Some of the other brands that I use, obviously Le Creuset, Staub, are really, really good as well. So just have a look at some of those guys and have a look at what they're doing.
What are your thoughts on pressure cooking meat like lamb, mutton, beef in a curry?
I've got no problem with pressure cooking meat at all. It's something that my mum used to do all the time. So with mutton and things like that, that will take a long time. Using a pressure cooker is brilliant. I love a pressure cooker. There's different ways of doing it. Some people will pressure cook their meat first and then put it into the masala. Other people will make the masala and put it into the pressure cooker. When you do it like that, you sometimes end up with turmeric everywhere and so on. So there's different methods of doing it and different ways that you can do it. But there's no harm in pressure cooking. I find that if you pressure cook it first, just put some ginger and garlic and some flavour in there, so you do penetrate some flavours into the meat. And then afterwards, if you're cooking it with your masala, you still need to do that low and slow so that it absorbs in. And don't pressure cooker it for too long so that it just falls to pieces. Just make sure you know you've got the timing right for the amount of meat that you're cooking.
Jo said that she doesn't have 2 hours to prep and cook meals during the week, maybe on the weekends.
A lot of food doesn't take 2 hours. So if you were cooking this without me yabbering on to you, this would probably take you about half an hour to cook. It felt like the onions took a long time, but if you're doing it at home, by the time you've prepped everything, you've got it in the pan. This is a really quick dish. If you have a look on the website, I've got a whole load of dishes that take less than half an hour to cook. Really quick and easy, really flavoursome, really tasty dishes. A lot of people think that Indian food takes forever to cook, and you've got to spend a whole day doing it. It's not true at all. The other thing I will say is, if you haven't got that time, then you need to get hold of my slow cooker cookbook, because if you're into slow cooking, it's a great way of just getting your stuff on in the morning, going to work, coming back, and it's ready. Okay, so my mince is looking really good. I'm going to now add my peas into there, so they just go straight in. If you're not using peas, you can use other veg, other frozen veg, as I said. I'm just going to give that all a mix through. It smells really, really delicious. And it's pretty much there. It's pretty much there now, so look at that. It's looking vibrant and lovely and delicious and yummy, just as food should do. So I'm going to let that simmer away. Now, I'm just going to talk to you very, very quickly. Let's move these bits out of the way. About the bread. So, if I move this here. Yeah, before I do.
Claudia has asked, what is the difference in flavour for you if the lamb or any meat is fried a little bit first in the before the mix?
What is the difference in flavour? It's what, just to seal the meat first? Is that what we're talking about in a little bit? So with Indian food, you don't need to do that because of the process of what you're doing. You make your masala, and then what you do is you turn it right up and then you sear your meat in the pan with that masala. So there's no need to do that pre-frying. With some regional Indian food, so Kashmiri food, for example, up in the north, they tend to do a lot of that. They will fry their meat first, or even their vegetables first, and then add them into their masala. So it's just, some of it is about the regionality of it as well. Okay, so earlier on, I made this dough that I'm going to do some fun stuff with. So as I talked about, Keema, this dish that we're cooking, is really, really versatile. And if you have a look on the website, I've got my Indian shepherd's pie, which I use this mix for as the meat mix, and then on top I put a masala mashed potato, which is amazing. But one thing I also, so I was talking a little bit about that Indian street food thing. We tend to use something called Bao Buns, so they're just like little bread rolls, but they're really soft and really delicious. And if you look at my Instagram, I've shown you how to make it. And here are some that I made earlier. Can you see those? Look at those babies. They're so, so yummy, but they're really soft and delicate. And these are just plain ones. So I'll show you, look. They're just little soft little buns. And these ones I made earlier are just plain ones, but I wanted to use the rest of the dough to show you how to make them filled. So what we can do is fill them with this Keema mix, and then I'm just going to pop them in here, and then they need to proof for another 40 minutes, and then I'm going to put them in the oven. I'm not going to keep you here for that 40 minutes. I'm just going to show you how to make them, and then I'll take some pictures and I'll just share them with you so you can see what they look like. So in my little dish here, I'm just putting a little bit of ghee in the bottom, just so that when I make the rolls, they won't stick. So this dough is really light and fluffy, and it's just made with plain flour. It's got some milk powder in there. It's got yeast, salt, sugar, a little bit of ghee, and I mix that all up with some warm milk, and then we let that sort of just sit and double in size, and it did it beautifully, and it got really lovely and airy. And then you just punch the air out of it like I'm doing now. And then we're just going to make these little buns. Now, ideally, my mixture needs to be cold. So I'm just going to take a little bit out, just so that it can cool down a little bit. So these are cooked, and plus I'm going to bake all of this in a minute.
No yeast?
So yes, there's yeast in the bun mixture, yep. If I will put a link for this recipe at the end of this video, but if you haven't seen it yet, if you go to the website or the app, it's called Bao, P-A-U, bun, I think, Bao Buns. So you just make a little bit like that, Now this is going to be hot, so ideally you should do it when it's cold. Just going to put a tablespoon in the middle.
Once you make or buy ghee, should it be kept in the fridge or should it stay out if it's
So ghee, let me just finish this first. I'm just going to show you this first and then I'll talk to you about ghee. So you just roll that up. Okay, like that, and then we're just going to pop that into there. And I'm going to do that with the other one. So coming back to your question about ghee. So what ghee is, as we talked about earlier, it's butter that's been heated up to get rid of its milk, proteins and any salt and any impurities that are in it. By the process of doing that, you are getting rid of all of those milk proteins, which means, and the reason that people use it in India or started to use it in India is because they had no refrigeration. They needed something that they could keep that didn't go off. And by losing all of those milk proteins in that process means that you can keep ghee out on your work surface indefinitely and it won't go off, provided you don't add any bacteria to it by using dirty spoons or whatever you like. So absolutely, it doesn't have to be refrigerated. I keep mine in my cupboard, but if you want to, you can keep it in the fridge if you want to. I don't.
Do you make your own ghee?
Yeah, I've also got a recipe on the website as to how you make ghee. So if you just if you go onto the website and search for ghee, you will find a recipe that shows you how to make it. Okay. So that's, can you see what I'm doing? So the filling is in the middle and I'm just pulling the sides up together and just round the edges, just into the middle, and then I'm just going to just sort of pull that together like a little parcel. Okay, and then that's going in there. I'm going to do 2 more whilst I've got you here, and then I'll show you how to finish this off. Once these are done, so this dough is really soft and light and yummy. So once you have filled up your little buns like this, you need to sit them or let them sit for about 40 minutes just to prove for the second time, which is why I'm sort of doing this now. And then you pop them into a hot oven, so at 200 degrees, and they cook for about 15 to 20 minutes. They don't take very long, but they come out beautifully golden, soft and light. And then these are obviously filled with this lovely filling. So these are great to take for a picnic, and just really, really yummy. So let me just do the last one to show you. There we go. Just flatten it out a little bit. I'm going to have to take it from here. So the keema is looking really good. This is pretty much done now. How is yours looking, guys? Who's cooked? How are we doing at home? If anyone's cooked, can I have some feedback? How are yours looking? They should be pretty much looking like they're done. Are we getting any noise from anybody? Or is everyone just getting so hungry that they've lost the will to live? Right. Last one. There we go. Look at those. So, okay, so these sit in this oiled little thing. I'm going to keep those in there for another 40 minutes till they prove, and then they'll get nice and soft, and they're going to go into the oven at 200 degrees for about 20 minutes, and then I'll take some pictures and I'll show you. So that's what they look like. Can you see? Whoops. There we go. So I'll pop those over here. Now, the last bit of our dish. How are we doing? So my keema is done. I'm going to turn that off. I am going to have a little taste because it's all about the taste. And then I'm going to show you how we're serving this. It's hot. Mine needs a little bit more
Someone
salt.
said they're using red lentils, so it's looking a bit dry. Should they add some liquid?
Yeah, if you are using lentils, obviously you haven't got any water in there, so you do need to add a little bit of moisture. Sorry, I should have said that. You will need to add a little bit of moisture because you want those lentils to soak up that moisture, and they will need a little bit more. So please do add, especially if you haven't cooked them. So you can do it in two ways. You can cook your lentils first and then add them, or you can just add them and then you need to add some water to them.
What is the stuffed buns dish called?
It's called, so the stuffed buns are called Bao, P-A-U. No, they're not. P-A-V. I think it's Bao, on the website I think it's Bao rolls. I'll have a look. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's Bao Buns. No, it might be Bao Buns actually. I can't remember off the top of my head. Okay, so just to finish this, so my dish is looking like it's pretty much done and I'm happy with it. I'm just going to chop up some fresh coriander. Now this you can serve with rotis. You can serve it as a Bao street food dish. Actually, before I do that, I'm just going to add my final little bit of garam masala first. So garam masala, a teaspoon of that goes in, just to bring everything that you've put into that dish together.
You're going, what's the garam masala? Now you've got to do the garam masala.
Sorry, garam masala's gone in.
I know you so well.
There you go, garam masala's gone in. Okay, so that is looking amazing. I am going to just pop that to one side, and just to have on the side with this, I'm going to do a very quick, we call it a Punjabi salad, a red onion salad. So it's just red onions, really thinly sliced, and you can, if you want to, add some chili to it, but I'm just going to spread those out, just add those in. Just break them up a little bit. Into that we're putting some juice of half a lemon. With all Indian dishes you tend to have some form of a salad or something on the side. So somebody asked a question about yogurt earlier. Sorry, I didn't answer that. So yep, you could do a really nice mint yogurt. A really easy cheat mint yogurt that you can do is if you've got some mint sauce in the fridge, and this is what a lot of restaurants do. So a little bit of mint sauce in the fridge, get some yogurt, mix the mint sauce in with that yogurt, put some garam masala, a little bit of chili powder in there, and you've got a really quick cheats mint yogurt. The other thing you can do is just get some mint and mince it with some lemon and some chilies in a blender, and then you add that into some yogurt, mix that all up. You might need a little splash of water as well. Season it with some salt, and there you go, a really quick mint right there. So I've got lemon in here, I've got my onion, I'm going to put some fresh coriander in, and I'm going to add some kalonji seeds. So these are kalonji seeds. I don't know if I've shown you these before. So these are little black, can you see? little black onion seeds, nigella seeds. They're not the same, they're slightly different, but these are galungi seeds. Some of those go in. Just mix that up. Just going to pop that into here so you can see it a little bit better. And you know what? I'm going to add a little bit of chilli in there because I think it needs it. Obviously, you can miss the chilli out. There we go. So a little bit of chilli. Pop this to one side. And then I'm just going to add my keema. And this is with peas and mushrooms, and I've also added some lentils. And as I said, if you were cooking this at home with just you and your family, it would take you probably no longer than half an hour. So a little bit of coriander just for freshness on top. And then I'm going to show you the inside of these amazing, yummy, yummy little buns. So we'll pop those. I'm not sure if they are, but we can have a look at that. That's not a... with a little bit of... So if I show you how they are, how you would normally eat these. Oh no, I've made a bit of a mess. You put your salad on the top, and then you can just have that on there. So there you go. Needed the tissue, but there you go. So there's your keema in a lovely little soft bao bun, bao bhaji as we call it. Done really, really quickly. So there you go. There's our Friday night dinner for tonight. As always, thank you for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed it. Those guys who are cooking, I hope you are with me and you've all sort of got to the end okay, and you've all got all your fingers intact and there's been no issues. Thank you for joining me. It's been lovely to cook with you. I hope you've enjoyed it. I know I have. I will share all these pictures with you, and we will tag on to the end of this video the bao recipe for you. I'm also going to share the pictures of the filled buns that I'm cooking later on this evening, and I'll share those with you as well. We will be doing another one next Friday. I will share the recipe with you on Wednesday. I hope you have a good week, and I hope you have a lovely weekend, and keep those questions coming in. All I will say, as I always say, is if you have cooked this tonight, please do share your pictures with me. Let me know what you think. Let me know whether you enjoyed the experience. But if you're cooking later on in the week, then please still take those pictures. Because I'd love to see them, and you can share those with me either on Instagram and I will reshare them, or you can share them with me on my app, which is Harry Ghotra. Just go to your app store and search Harry Ghotra and you'll see the app. You can just download it for free. Thank you for joining. Lovely to be with you, and happy Friday. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you next week. Thank you so much.